yeah, no changes also for me in the next B&R. And why we are needing no changes for from this B&R and the next B&R, we're going to talk now, because we take a look at the latest showcase challenge that happened yesterday, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So what's so glorious about that showcase challenge? Tell us.
Welcome to In Response, a Legacy podcast. Whether you're a dedicated player or just curious about Legacy, join us as we share ideas, discuss decks, and have some fun along the way.
Guys, I want you to be honest. Were you surprised by the bannings?
The bannings? No. But you were surprised.
I mean, it was kind of the expected result, to be honest. Because like everything leading up, yeah. Format has changed. Format got a little bit new. The people in the format enjoyed it, excluding some.
But we're going to talk about that.
But yeah, kind of the expected result. Everything worked out as they wanted.
Exactly. I think Legacy is in a wonderful state actually at the moment. And that is basically reflected by the last announcement where there were no changes at all. And I think that is what I hoped for, what actually happened, and this is what the Legacy format definitely has to offer at the moment. I think this resembles that.
That's 100% true. But to reflect a little bit on our last stance on the bannings, I can remember that we were pretty high on a Tamiyo ban beforehand. So what has really changed in that regard?
Yeah, I think overall Tamiyo was straight out of the last changes and the last couple of powerful cards that were added to the Legacy meta game was the core strategy of things you can do that is the most powerful in Legacy. And that continued for a while, and it hovered a little bit between a blue-red variant and the blue-black variant, and it settled the last couple of things in the blue-black variant. And people have now gotten used to it a little bit, I would argue, and found strategies that help against Tamiyo to a certain extent.
Yeah, and to include it, I think a lot of people kind of got into a stance of acceptance, I want to say, to Tamiyo. Tamiyo is still, I think, the most powerful thing in Vacuum that you can do in Legacy at the moment. But there are now countless strategies that kind of ignore what Tamiyo does. I mean, it's still really, really good in recovering 4-stop wins in a common meta game. It's still very, very good winning you the game on its own with its ultimate.
Yeah.
But there are still decks out there that are just jamming through it. And we've seen a little bit of an uptick in removal just to kill Tamiyo. Even when it's flipped, you kind of try to force the flip in combats. And it's really neat how the Legacy meta game shaked up in the last few weeks, I want to say.
So what you want to say is that people are adapting, especially to Tamiyo. Wouldn't that indicate a ban worthiness?
Depends on how, let's say, Tamiyo based, and we're speaking mostly about Dimir Tempur here is the most prominent shell for this. If depending on how successful the shell ends up being, if people are attacking it. And I think that the latest results of the big showcase challenge that we had, give a little bit of indication of what the answer of that is.
So, that's true. We're going to talk about this in a couple of minutes. But now I just want to really go to the boogeyman in the room, because everybody knows it's Oopso spells. People were pretty insanely high on a ban for Oops, I think. And also there were no changes.
Yeah.
Peter, what's your opinion on that? Do you think it would have been wise to pull the trigger on Oops? Or is it better, like we have it now with no changes?
I mean, from an personal standpoint, I'm 100% in don't hate the game, hate the player. But No, funny things aside, I think out podcast and just ban all the players and tournaments that are playing Oops. That's all fine. No, I think if the format isn't heavily obstructed by the presence of Upsal spells, and as we've seen with the latest results, I mean, the deck has legs. It performs well over big tournaments. It can put up results, but it usually doesn't win anything. I mean, it happens
rarely, yeah.
Very rarely it wins something. And I think it's kind of okay to have such a play pattern in the format.
Yeah, I mean, why don't we go ahead and compare that to, I don't know, almost, I want to call it old school Legacy, where we had a couple of years ago, we had Miracles, we had Delver strategies, and I don't know, Storm variants, and the Oops deck of that time was just Charbelcher. And it was present and nobody was really complaining about it. I think we have the same situation. The deck got better compared to the format.
Variants, yeah.
Exactly. I think compared to the meta game, of course, it got better, and it's not a deck that is super class canon as Charbelcher was back in the day. I mean, don't get me wrong on that one, but you know, also the tempo decks and the control decks have gotten more tools to interact and, you know, stronger hit pieces. And so also the combo decks have gotten, in that case, Oops, I have found shells that are working just a little bit better through that hate. And the question is, of course, where do you draw the line of it being too good? And, you know, I don't want to go deep into that discussion. I think that's maybe for another discussion, but
for another episode.
But this is just, I want to draw and make this comparison. I think it's valid somehow. It's the glass cannon deck of the format, even though it can play around hate, right? This is the fastest deck that we have.
Like Black Red Reanimator from pre-COVID times.
Also, yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I don't necessarily agree with that it's a glass cannon deck. I think it's more like a milled glass cannon deck. It has some form of protection in it.
Exactly.
But they also stated in, I think it was not this B&R, I think it was the B&R before that, they were said like, we are more likely to pull the trigger on Oopsal spells at a lower win rate. And if it doesn't achieve that, and I mean, if it's, I don't know where the win rate currently stands, if it's slightly below 50 or it's slightly above 50, is it 52 or something like that, that's completely fine. And you have to have like plus and like positives and negatives for matchups in your deck. I mean, there has to be a reason why you want to pivot into blue to play Force of Will or into black to play the discard, or you completely pivot those colors or play in white because you like the removal there. Every color needs to have upsides and downsides, and this is something that makes Magic great as it is, and Legacy, because we have so many different tools in the various colors and the various archetypes, and if we don't have positives and negatives there, I mean, everything is chess.
I mean, it would have been a shame if the need for Force of Will just disappears out of the format, and the need for Force of Will, in my opinion, are fast combo decks. Besides that, you could always, it's enough to have days in your 75 or some other counters. Probably, if there wouldn't be a fast combo deck in the format.
Yeah, Force of Will is for sure the one essential piece that everybody, I think, is happy to have in the format, and is part of the reason why we don't have just decks playing out their strategies without any interaction at all. Other formats, I think, are much worse than Legacy in that regard.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And yeah, Force of Will adds to that for sure in a positive way. It's very balanced and needed for the format, and I think that's completely fine.
So I'm pretty sure we can agree all three that no changes was the right decision to do here.
At this point, for sure.
Yeah. What would your prediction, just to close out the bannings talk? What are your prediction for the next cycle of bannings?
So, okay. With the recent trends and results in mind that we'll talk now today, I actually cannot make a prediction, to be honest.
What would let me phrase it differently? What would your wish be?
My wish would, at the moment, still be no changes.
Okay,
Yes.
Peter.
My wish would be the printing of a one-cost artifact that enters the battlefield and draws a card. No, but in regards of bannings and maybe even unbannings, I think we need to have in regards of unbannings, we need to have a healthy state for half a year, where it's kind of stable, that you can put something off the ban list. This is something that I can see happening in the near future. But as it currently stands, we don't need any bannings. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm 100% on your side here, Peter. Also, I want to add, I don't even think we would need unbannings, in my opinion, because as you said, a stable metagame and just let people have fun is probably the biggest biggest thing that we can do for the community as a whole. And so therefore, no changes also for me in the next B&R. And why we are needing no changes from this B&R and the next B&R, we're going to talk now, because we take a look at the latest showcase challenge that happened yesterday, I think.
Yep.
So what's so glorious about that showcase challenge? Tell us.
Yeah, I mean, if you scroll through the deck lists, what I didn't read, and I tried to find it very hard. I almost took a magnifying glass to find it, but I couldn't find it. Is the word Dimir Tempo, and you couldn't find it on the whole list of at least the top 32 of the showcase challenge. No Dimir lists, and also hardly any copies of Tamiyo in the top 8 as well.
So no bannings were right, do you say?
Yeah.
Awesome. So we had an episode last time about the strengths and the weaknesses of Tamiyo Tempo. Why do you think as this really insane and probably the best deck in the format right now fallen off the map?
I think what you can witness with that results, and I think that confirms it pretty nicely, is the recent trend that the Dimir Tempo deck have been, taken their path onto. So you can build Dimir Tempo to be quite aggressive with Nethergoyfs and lots of cheap interaction. You have your full playset of Dazes, and you want to just kill your opponent fast and have meaningful interaction, and that's it. And recently, because there's a lot of mirrors, people want to beat the mirror. So they pack cards like Hymdotorak that are great 2-for-1 cards, Baleful Strix and Barrogoyf's main deck that are big, very strong, potent creatures that generate card advantage and is a trump card in the mirror. However, this slows down
each other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they go more and more into the direction of being more mid-rangey actually than tempo. And you've seen that pretty. If you scroll through the last couple of lists, you see that. And that leaves breathing room for any deck that is somehow weak to early aggression and early interaction. So decks that are a little bit wonky on the mana side and a little bit clunky can thrive for that. And if you scroll for the Showcase Challenge deck lists, you can see that, I think. And there's also decks that are very happy to be paired against a mid-range version of Dimir Temple is, for example, Death and Taxes. And no doubt it was the winning deck list of this Showcase Challenge, for example. Very nice to see, I would say, because this really shows Dimir Tempo. You cannot just go all the way in mid-range without any punishment. You have to think, okay, what is my metagame that I expect in the given tournament? And, is it really right that I want to have Hymdotorak in the main deck or Baleful Strix for the mirror if I then maybe lose more often to a control deck or a Death and Taxes deck that is just much bigger than I ever can bring to the table? And I think this balance is now at the question of each Dimir Tempo player, given these results that we just saw.
So if they are leveling each other, you say there's more room for faster decks.
Yeah.
I think we can pretty nicely see this in one of the, it's a top 32 finish, so it's not top 8 or something. But we have seen mono black just splashing blue for Kaito's deck list, which really drives this point home. So they are just going really, really low to the ground, incorporating things like Moonshadow and I think even Voidwalker's main something. So really go under the other Dimir Tempo decks.
Yeah, I see merit for this kind of decks, for sure. They are inconsistent on their own because they don't have the cantrips to, pair with their threats. But, if you draw well, it's for sure nice strategy.
So, and what you also, decks that have to draw well are things like Death and Taxes, everything that's non-blue.
Yeah.
Peter, we had a whole lot of non-blue decks in the top 8.
Yeah, we actually had a few of them. I mean, one is the personal favorite of you, Philip, with Boros Kitten, basically.
Everybody loves cats.
Yeah, and actually, what were the other we had 2 copies of lands, actually. One copy piloted from Rodrigo to Goresh. One of the lens players was on green-white, one was on mono-green. So
the Goresh was green-white, yes.
And the Goresh was green-white. Yes. There is also some form of development regarding sideboard choices, mostly, and some form of in the main deck. So actually, really, really neat to see various decks there.
Yeah, the re-emergence of lands really points to people gearing totally against blue-black tempo.
Yeah, exactly. Lands are really happy to play against a mid-range version of Dimir Tempo. They don't care about anything that's put on the table. I mean, Tamiyo, if it gets uncontested or core, it can surely win some games, but lands it loses if it's just paired against faster wasteland days and fast early creatures like is it Tempo? I'm not so sure because they also have quite a bit of reach, for example. But now this mid-range deck, Lance is really happy to pair against this deck.
Yeah, and there, as I previously said, the upsides and downsides in regarding tuning your deck list really, really comes to shine. Yeah, that's like also the other decks that we had in top 8, if I can reach a little bit forward with 2 copies of Sneak and Show and Tell variants.
Yes.
Those also thrive if your opponent gives you a turn more.
Yeah.
And there it's like the trade-offs.
Mm-hmm.
And Dimir Tempo basically said, I will lose to everything else, but at least a bit the mirror. And it's definitely not good enough in the current form of the metagame. So you need to pack your fast and heavy hitting threats, and you can't really rely on your top end anymore in the main deck, at least with Barugos. You need them in the sideboard, but I think a few of those copies have to be distributed differently now.
Probably. Talking about fast and heavy hitting decks, we also had 1 copy of Affinity in the showcase challenge in the top 8, I think. Yeah. Exactly. So this is also a deck what really thrives on blue-black tempo going bigger.
Yeah.
With its sheer fastness, and the robots are doing great work.
Yeah. Definitely one of the top decks at the moment. Ever since it won the Eternal Weekend,
The Eternal Weekend, yes.
Basically it has not changed since then. You can the only real big thing to decide is whether you play Chalice of the Void or Memory Garden. There's like the 2 cards that you can
What does Memory Guardian do?
That's like a 5 mana, a 3/4 flyer with Affinity. So you can usually just cast it for 1 mana. And, it's blue and it's bolt proof, fatal push proof. It's just a solid beater that means more aggression. And Chalice of the Void asks for a little bit more stompy elements inside, of course. And against certain combo decks, Chalice might be very potent. In other decks, it's not so much. So it's a trade-off. Memory Garden is blue for your Force of Wills. So gotta consider that when you build your deck. And it's a solid creature. Yeah, that's quite often played, I would say. I don't know. I think it's like, I don't know, almost 50-50 either Chalice or Memory Guardian, I would say.
I personally have to say I'm quite in favor of the Memory Guardian. You need the early creatures in there. Palace is a really, really bad top deck, and especially in the newer meta. I mean, it doesn't really matter if you're playing Force of Will or Chalice of the Void. If your opponent pulls out the new Waxing Shasha in the form of
Hexing Squelcher.
Hexing Squelcher, it doesn't really matter if you have a Chalice on the board or Force of Will and a blue card in the hand. So you just really need to have like your fast threats. It's something that you can deploy to give your big beater again unblockable. So and it blocks basically any DRC, any Tamiyos that your opponent wants to get in to just get the need tokens to draw some cards.
Yes.
So yeah,
solid deck for sure, definitely.
Awesome. Just talk a little bit about. We had one Tamiyo deck in the top 8, and it's not Tempo, like we already covered. Shout out here to Man and Rudy, Easy Money Marksman, on his head deck, Blue-Black Reanimator.
That's so nice, yeah.
This list looks totally different, like the lists we had pre-ban, with Entomb, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that now, I was a little bit out of the loop, but there was 2 different kinds of Reanimator at first. Am I right?
After the bannings?
After the bannings, yeah. There was a version that we are having right now from Easy Money Marksman with Tainted Indulgence. And I think there was some kind of different tech they were trying. Was it Careful Study?
Yeah. So some builds try to opt it for the Careful Study. I think this is just a little bit of a weak of a magic card to being consistently a good card in these kind of decks, because you already, your main strategy, you have to invest so many cards. We have to have multiple creatures to actually hit them and discard them and then later on reanimate them. I think you cannot afford to have a very bad top deck as well with Careful Study. And Tainted Indulgence is like the bare minimum because that's your card still. And yeah, Manuel Rudy with his version opted to go for the minimum package, I would say. I don't know if it's consistently okay to have this minimum package, because it just played 2 Undercity Sewers to potentially mill a fatty, and the other one is 2 copies of this Tainted Indulgence, and that's it for basically enablers.
Okay, that's really
yeah. Other have like up to 4 or 6 copies of some kind mixes of Tainted Indulgence and Careful Study if you play them, and he opted to just have, more or less other creatures as his main or plan B part of the deck, which is a couple of Tamiyos. Obviously, this is anyways for each list.
Yeah,
and he plays a couple of Murktides and Barrowgirths as well, so to round out these creatures. I like it actually. I find it's a quite nice list. But I will throw the table. I was surprised to not see Wistfulness in the deck.
That's a new card from Lorwyn, am I right?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's this evoke creatures that have this double mana pips with hybrid mana, and Wistfulness is the Simic version. And it has the ETB, either you pay 2 blue mana, then it says draw 2 cards and discard 1 card, so that's exactly the effect that you're looking for. And for double green, you can exile an artifact or enchantment. Less of fun interest, I would say. But the thing is, in a fail case, Wistfulness is a 6/5 creature that dies after evoking it, obviously. So you can just reanimate this creature.
Oh, yeah.
So it is an enabler that is almost like a Troll of Castle-Doom kind of effect, right? So this is how is it. I think it's a nice fit into the deck. It's not instant. That's maybe the only downside. But other than that, I thought it would be played more in these Reanimator decks.
Yeah, I mean, all of those elementals I really like from a design standpoint there. I also like the blue and black one.
The Deceit, I think.
Deceit. Yes. Because you can bounce a non-permanent, if I remember correctly. for the 2 blue and for the 2 black, you basically have a Thoughtseize.
Yeah.
And it's exactly worded as so that the blue effect happens before the black one.
Yeah.
So basically in the late game, you can cast it and you bounce a thing from your opponent and directly can discard it. Which would be also kind of something, but maybe he's just not looking into those cards because
Yes.
when they come back, they don't win.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the big.
It's not a grief or anything like that. It's just really if you pay the mana for the evoke, then you get the ability. And
no, if you pay the mana when you cast it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you can't pay the mana when they're entering the battlefield?
No. It's the effect is decided on what mana you choose for the evoking or for the casting of the card. And the evoke is 2 mana, 2 hybrid mana, and you can make any combination of mana. And when you pay double blue or double of one color, you get one effect, or double of the other color, you get another effect.
Okay.
So you can decide on that. And if you hard cast it, you can potentially get both.
Do you remember if the lands playlist played the new green elemental?
I didn't see it, no. The Vibrant. Yeah, no.
Because this one is
what does it do?
Perfect fit for land stacks. For 2 green, it basically searches your deck for a land.
Yeah.
Sounds great in land?
Your hand.
Yes. Yeah.
And the key thing why it's good is the 2 red ones. Because it's basically a bolt. And you don't need any red mana in your deck because this is your out to Magus of the Moon.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I love it.
And this is something that I really, really like from an outsider perspective.
It's very flexible, yeah.
Deck lists. Kind of sweet.
But no, it didn't had any copies in this showcase lists. Yeah. But I think it's tried out, however. You can see it a couple of times. It's in general, you see it, yeah.
So this showcase challenge was probably one of the most diverse that we had in a long, long time.
Yeah.
And it's insane. Let's talk about the newcomer out of this showcase challenge. I don't know if it's that new, but I've seen it today for the first time.
Yeah.
And it put 2 or 1 result in the top 8 and 1 really for runner-up or 9th place.
Yeah.
And it's Aluren.
Yeah.
It's Aluren. What the hell? I mean, what year is it?
Aluren Tell or whatever you call it.
I don't know. It's the love child of Omnitel and Aluren.
Exactly. Yes.
Something like that.
Simic, straight to the point of combination of 2 combos, and I think it was created by one Asian player. He's called Otaba. He is on X. He's usually the only really Aluren player that I know of that consistently plays a deck and tries new things. And he came up with that, or at least I saw it. It was a couple of weeks ago when he posted the first results of this deck. And I'm very excited to see this in the showcase challenge now. So I think the key card to this merging is the new Love Eclipsed printed card Formidable Speaker.
What does it do for people who don't know this card? Because they're not paying attention to releases and everything. What's that card?
I mean, there are basically 2 key factors in the card. It costs CMC 3.
Yeah.
Which is for an Aluren deck basically an essential. It costs 1 green, 1 into generic. And it has an ETB ability where you discard a card and can search your deck for any creature card. The card that you discard doesn't have to be a creature card, just has to be a card. So it's kind of like the reserved list staple, how's it called?
Survival of the Fittest.
Survival of the Fittest. Just for one-time use. And I think you can tap it to untap something. Which is
not so important, yeah.
Not so important. The key thing in here is together with Azarak, a traditional win condition in Aluren deck lists, it has the ability basically with an Aluren out, you search for the Azarak and you win the game on the spot. It does exactly the same thing, and this is the cool thing that it combines so well with Show and Tell and Omniscience. It does exactly the same thing with Omniscience.
Yeah, okay.
Because you cast a thing also for free there. And yeah, it's the brew is really, really nice. You have so many pieces that does exactly the same thing for the A-B combos. I mean, you can't cast your Emrakul or your Atraxas with an Aluren out there. But other than that, everything does the same thing.
I think it's nice. So, like, if you have traditional Aluren that has the, let's say, Cavern Harpy, potentially you could also do that with Omniscience, right? So, also would work. But the good thing with the Formidable Speaker is if you don't have Aluren and you have Show and Tell Omniscience, the Formidable Speaker can find your Emrakul or Atraxa that works with Omniscience now if you have it on a battlefield. So on that side of things, it adds a little bit more consistency. And that's why it's probably still the weakest point of the deck. It doesn't enhance the consistency of finding Show and Tell and Omniscience, or let's say Show and Tell in the first place. I mean, you have your other way of winning now with Aluren, but both are A plus B combos that are not. Those are not, helping each other. If you have Show and Tell and Aluren, you need still something else, right?
So you're at least one turn faster.
You can be one turn faster, exactly, but you still need a Formidable Speaker or, a stock up that finds you a creature or anything like that. This is one thing that Simic Omnitel usually struggles a little bit, is to find the 4 copies of Show and Tell, the enablers. With Aluren, you have another way of winning, yes, but they don't work together. That's so it's like, I don't know if it makes the whole thing more consistent. With the payoff, it works quite well, I would say, as the speaker is working for both kind of combos. But for getting it there, you still struggle a little bit. And the reason why my guess is that we see this in the moment is also because there is no so much fast decks at the moment that punish these kind of things. And that's why I think it's good. It's also kind of a rogue factor, right? A new kind of deck that nobody expects.
And like you said, it gives the opponent a little bit of time.
Yeah.
And it also plays Ancient Tomb, so it would feed directly into some kind of really, really fast deck to punish it.
Yeah.
Like Is It Cutter or
exactly,
or the new Rectus deck that we've seen from Be Excellent.
Yeah.
With Moonshadow and some, he calls it Black Burn or something. It's just straight to the face.
I see Nethergoyf's insanely fast deck can win on turn 3. Those decks are really something that can be punishing for Aluren, but as it currently is in the metagame, as we've seen with the top 8 deck lists, I mean, Affinity is a fast deck, but Different Texas on the other hand, quite slow. Even B&R Reanimator, it needs some time to set up.
Yeah.
I've tainted the
Indulgence,
which costs 2. And previously we had Entomb on 1 and Reanimated on your turn 2.
No.
And now you are just discarding the card on turn 2 and reanimating on turn 3. It's a whole turn.
It's best case.
Slower. And in best case scenario, we don't play any Lotus Petals to fasten it up. So it's really a little bit slower and something in those colors with Aluren. I mean, the Simic Omniscience always played their Whale of Summers. In this color combination, you are also including the Whale of Summer in the main deck, which is excellent if your opponent also pivots for something like Hymn-to-Turek. So a turn later, you can play your Whale of Summer, maybe even through a days, or maybe you are only playing 3 days because like your Demon Temple deck just got a little bit slowed down. Every decision in the metagame matters for every player, for every deck, and it's beautiful to see how it unfolds currently.
Exactly.
To be honest, I'm pretty sure that the only real quote-unquote fast deck that we have right now in the format is Cats. In all its iterations.
Fine.
Affinity is fast.
Is it Affinity? Yeah. Is it Cutter? Isn't really. How many copies do we have in the top?
We had one.
One copy. Okay.
It is around, but it still struggles against Tamiyo, I would say, against Barrowgraph strategies. And yeah, Cutter, isn't really the thing at the moment that pulls its weight. Sometimes it's awkward and it can get there, but it's not super consistent, I would say. So when it's around, you have to expect it. Maybe now a little bit more, because I think against this Aluren deck, against lands, against maybe Devon taxes, you might choose a more faster strategy going forward. So maybe we enter now the area of Legacy, having a little bit of fun cycle, right?
Would be awesome.
Yeah.
I would love that.
Yes, exactly. And if it's not turning and staying on one side too long, I think that's a good thing.
For sure, I'm 100% with you. Just one more question about Izzet Kata. Do you think it would be a good idea for Kata players to shift more into burn-based strategy to be a little bit faster in the meta?
It's difficult.
Completely contradicts Kata, unfortunately. Kata is a really good card, but it is so vastly different to something that we were previously used to.
Okay.
Because a Kata, you kind of always want to compare it to Young Pyromancer, your Monastery Mentor. It's basically the same card, am I right? You cast some spells and you gain some tokens. You go wide with that. But the play pattern with Kata is different. Because like usually with a Young Pyromancer, even though you maybe didn't had something, I mean, previously in the day when you played the deck, it was always like playing Young Pyromancer, casting for free, showing me your hand, and
Get X
Improve, and you flashback your Cabal Therapy from the graveyard. Those were the dream scenarios.
Yeah.
And you cut you don't really want to play on turn 2 because it's not a turn 2 thing, because you really want to use the Cutter as the first spell, which means the Cutter in itself is basically kind of CMC3 card, because you always played on turn 3, which means you were not allowed to daze previously than that. Because there's always delays. So if you're playing Cutter, you're playing kind of a late game go wide Izzet burn deck. And if you want to play more burn, I think you have to throw the whole Cutter plan aside, because it kind of contradicts what you want to do with the card.
Okay, so maybe there's space in the format for 2 different blue-red tempo shells. One more burn focused to really get under all these barrowglyphs that are out there.
Yeah, that's maybe the thing that I wanted to throw on the table. How about if you imagine a scenario like back in the day when we had, I don't know, not so potent threats that stabilized the board so heavily. You could, there were like play patterns of Izzet Delver going end of turn, bolt your face.
Yeah, that doesn't have many more.
This is some play patterns that, at the moment it's a waste of cards. It's like a waste of resources, and it doesn't matter if your opponent is at 1 life or 5 life. If on the right time Barrowgraph comes and stabilizes, and then you don't have anything. So I think those really burnish kind of tempo decks are, I would say, almost like over, unfortunately. If it's a fun strategy, but I don't see it that they are consistently coming back. Of course, any version can win a tournament,
like it always can.
Like it always can. Consistency, I'm struggling, because those are like, I'm missing the value of when you go face with both. Unless it's lethal. Yeah. Unless the only value is if
it's lethal. That's true. That's true.
If it's the last burn spell. Yes. But for the fast blue-red deck, you kind of have to play like 4 Delver, 4 DRC, and I think the third one drop of choice should be something like Stormchaser's Talent, to maybe in the late rebuy you a bowl.
Sometimes
that, and then you play some Murktide Regent, and then other than that, some form of bounce spell, which is something that you kind of need, because most of the time with Barrow guys, it stabilizes the room before you can close out. Maybe we can see an old staple of the format in Blue-Red Delver if you're looking 10 years behind. Vapor Snack.
Vapor Snack. Oh, wow. And that's on my bingo card today.
No, it should be Boomerang Basics, but yeah, some form of those cards to just bounce something. You can deny the life gain. It's a 3-mana investment versus a 1-mana investment. With Boomerang Basics, you bounce your own Storm Chaser's talent. You can go a little bit wider and also quite tall with those creatures. You're typically hitting for 3 on turn 3 latest with those. You have 2 or 3 of your 1-drops typically in the early game. Your dazes are way better because you don't rely in the form of like with Cutter as a pseudo 3-drop, or in blue-black with your 3-drops in Kaito, in Berugoyfs. So you're just way lower to the ground. And maybe this works, but maybe we want to have like Guide of Souls. You have your 3/4 flying, or 3/3 or 4/4 flying attacker in the form of your Ocelot's Prides when you pump it.
It's a 3/3 then, yeah.
It's a 3/3 then. You gain the life, and then you're completely out of reach there.
Yeah, that's true. There's so much lifelink at the moment in the format. It's insane. Berugoyf, Oslo Pride.
Yeah.
And I saw you play Triumph of St. Catherine on Friday.
Oh,
So
good old build your own Berugoyf if you don't play black.
I love the card.
Yeah.
I love Triumph.
Gains life and the Burn Blade Rise. Yeah.
So the only deck that we still tried to skip a little bit today is Cats, basically. And Peter, you already talked a little bit about it. What's your opinion on that list? So, the last few months, we always had Mardu as the go-to color choice. And now it has shifted completely into straight-up Boros. What might be the reason?
Yeah, I think because it gets more mid-rangey. It was the mana, I think, of Mardu is not free to have just all the black cards inside. You don't run any card selection, so I think you play Wastelands, right? So yeah, 3 color in the Wasteland is a lot to ask for if you don't play cantrips, in my opinion. So yeah, if you don't need the black, it's basically, it was this card and Orcish Bowmaster.
Yeah.
To the most extent, I would say. I think people, the mid-range part is still as strong as ever. You can still beat slower decks, and you have just more stable mana. That's, I think, the big advantage.
And even if you regard not only the Mardu but also the blue-black Dwarves of deck list, basically, you need the red for the reach.
Yeah, the red is insanely important
because without the red cards, you don't gain the best parts of the Ajani ability. It only makes tokens, but then shoots face, Goblin Bombardment, insanely good at clearing out games. Yeah, it's more stable from the mana perspective, more reach, a little bit faster, and you can go under
for sure
some of those combo decks, even though we are currently not on an old-time low, but the density is a little bit low at the moment,
Yeah, there isn't so much combo running around, so Boros makes 100% sense in my opinion. Also, Raptor is in my opinion one of probably the best card in that deck because it nets you so much card advantage all the time, and it's really a bad feeling when you're hitting a Cabal Therapy or Thoughtseize from your Raptor.
Yeah.
So going more into Boros style is totally the way to go.
This reminds me of the good old John times where I Bloodblade Elves into Thoughtseize into my opponent's empty hand.
It feels like that. I had it happen to you last Friday. So it's like, well, yeah, I don't want this card right now.
Yes.
Yeah. But that being said, I don't really get a lot of the card choices. I mean, I can't wrap my head around Sand Scout. So for you out there, if you have an idea why Sand Scout is so popular in these Boros decks, just drop it in the comments. I really I really don't get it.
I mean, the only reason is because we're currently in the winter and Sandscout typically presents beaches or deserts.
The desire for
The Indian, yeah, that's true. That's true. Summer feeling, riding the wave of summer feelings. I think that's a wrap.
I think also that's wrap is.